Let's bring in retired four-star general and Fox News senior strategic analyst, General Jack Keane. General, I don't even know what to say. First of all, Mariupol is being encircled. Maybe we can show a map right now, and you can see what's happening. Mariupol was supposed to be one of these so-called humanitarian corridors where people could escape safely. Turns out those corridors were mined. So this is just a complete disaster at the moment. Where do we stand on helping these poor Ukrainians deal with the situation?
Well, first of all, the situation reported by Admiral Kirby certainly is the correct one. There's been no territorial shift of any consequence in the last couple of days. Certainly the efforts in the north are completely stalled. The Ukrainian military is reporting that the Russians, it looks like the Russians are getting ready to restart their offensive on Kyiv somewhere in the next couple of days as preparations are being made. Of course, they've done that 3 or 4 times to no avail. They haven't made any real progress. They intend to circle that city much as they're doing in Mariupol. Mariupol is certainly a major humanitarian disaster as we speak. They've surrounded that city. They pummeled that city. And they certainly went to a ceasefire, and they violated that ceasefire twice, and civilians were killed as a result of the Russians, for our audience to understand, has violated every ceasefire they've ever been involved in, going back to Ukraine, 2014 plus, and also in Syria for a number of years. This is what they do. And for our audience also to appreciate, as much as the military forces in Ukraine are assigned a military objective to defeat the Ukrainian military, they are also assigned a military objective to defeat the Ukrainian people. And that is what we're seeing. It is part of their war plan to pummel these cities and to kill thousands of Ukrainian people, innocent women and children, because they want to force that killing and that horrific result on the government of Ukraine and force them to capitulate. This is the Russian way of war. They've done it in Chechnya, and they've done it in Syria, and they're doing it here. 625
missiles counting have been lobbed at Ukraine from Russia. We know that there's a 24/7 mass airlift that is going on where C-17s from the United States are bringing in weaponry, javelins, Stinger missiles. The javelins, of course, are fire and forget it. You know, just put them in there and they'll go right where they need to go and hit those tanks, those Russian tanks, the Stingers anti-aircraft. Is this enough, or at some point, General, are we going to have to do something more?
Well, this path that we're on here, we're providing tangible assistance like this is absolutely crucial. And certainly, as the Russians, unfortunately, they are being bogged down and stalled as this war becomes protracted, and we're really only in the first couple of weeks of the war, 12 days, and it certainly will likely go on for a lot longer than that. The challenge for the United States and NATO is to continue to provide the quantity and quality of the arms and munitions that the Ukrainians need, because these munitions are truly making a difference. Anti-tank weapons are killing tanks and other armored vehicles, and Stinger missiles and the like are also bringing down airplanes. We have got to continue that. I don't know why, or maybe we have given them anti-ship missiles. I hope we have, as those ships approach the port of Odessa.
I want to just quickly ask, there is this possible trade that's being discussed where the United States would bring F-16s to Poland. Poland, in turn, would take their MiGs and give them to the Ukrainians who are more familiar with that aircraft. How quickly could something like that happen? And is it even a possibility? Do you think it will happen?
Well, I think it's a distinct possibility. I like it. It's got some imagination associated with it, as far as I'm concerned. The Ukrainians, remarkably so, Liz, are still flying much of their aircraft. And I think they probably home base some of that in Romania and get it back into the theater. If they can get additional airplanes, of course, it will certainly make a difference. I believe somebody from Russia has probably made a phone call to the senior political leaders in Poland and likely have told them, if you do that, we're going to look at it as an act of war. And I think Putin and his cronies will continue to do this. They're going to say sanctions. are an act of war, as they did over the weekend. They're going to say continuing to provide arms to the Ukrainians is an act of war. And we've got to have the spine to stand up to that. I mean, this is rhetoric. It's threatening a major war. I understand it. But just look at the facts. The facts are most of its army is bogged down in Ukraine, not making much progress. Can they really afford to take on NATO on top of that when they're already deployed in a war zone? Okay. I doubt that seriously. So we have got to stand up to this rhetoric and do what's right.
Agreed. General Jack Keane, appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, great talking to you, Liz. Thank you.
Wonderful to have you.